Stop. Before all of you get mad and start bashing me with reasons why El Toro may actually be one of the best wooden coasters on earth, let me explain myself. Because you're wrong. Disclaimer. This video has zero intent to hate on or bring down Six Flags Entertainment or Intimate Amusement rides in any way. It's simply an opinion I've developed after my last two experiences on one of the largest wooden coasters on earth, El Toro. First, let me give you some context. In November of 2017, before I was a full-blown enthusiast, I took my first visit to Six Flags Great Adventure. Around this time, I found myself interested in coasters themselves, and I just started joining the community, but I wasn't very knowledgeable other than that. However, I was still aware of most rides located at the park, especially Ka and Toro, but little to my knowledge, both, as well as Bizarro, were closed for the off-season. I spent the day riding other rides like Nitro and Joker, praying in the back of my head that Toro and Ka would open. Of course, neither did. Fast forward 3 years later, and I found myself at the park once again. This time, I saw it running for the first time firsthand. With the drop so steep it looked fake, an airtime hill so forceful it looked like it practically killed riders, and a layout so beautifully designed and strong, there was no way I was coming off this without it making my top 10. Yet to my surprise, it left me underwhelmed and disappointed. This is why I hate El Toro. Rising to a height of 181 feet and lasting just over a minute and 40 seconds, El Toro has been thrilling riders for 15 years, and with that old age has come a noticeable change in roughness. Referring back to enthusiasts who rode this when it opened, El Toro was once as smooth as a wooden coaster could go, making for a mostly comfortable experience that was packed with airtime and intensity. Needless to say, I can't say for sure what it would have been like then, and the ride is most definitely still intense now, but that's all I think it has going for it anymore. It honestly lacked the proper airtime that I had associated with it over years of seeing it on Instagram and YouTube. The course was rough, the transitions batted me against the sides of my seat, and the pacing was just a little too much in my opinion. But this still had me asking myself why I hated it. I mean, I love rides like X2 and Viper, which are also both extremely awkward and rough. So why didn't I like Toro? And I think the answer to that question lies in a couple factors that are more dependent on the way the ride is operated, as well as my own insights into what makes a good coaster, rather than it being an issue with Toro itself. First of all, and whether you like my opinion on El Toro or not, I think you'd all agree with me that the row you choose to sit in will vastly affect your experience on the ride. Based on advice given to me on a poll I did with other enthusiasts, I was told to sit as far back as possible for max airtime and the best overall experience. Unfortunately, and I'm not sure if this is always the case, but there's no preferred seating allowed on El Toro. So when I rode, I was assigned row 7 on my first ride and row 14 on my second. And I hate to say it, I came off feeling the same way both times, confused and frustrated. As I continued thinking about more reasons why it wasn't as good as everyone else made it out to be, I figured one of two things. First, me as a person is not a fan of extreme ejector airtime. In fact, I think it hurts. And El Toro was specifically designed for it. I mean, one of the airtime hills pulls -2 times the force of gravity. That's absolutely insane. I also found it a strong point that I just way overhyped the ride in my head. Seeing a world-class coaster online for upwards of 4 years, and even seeing it in between but never riding it, really gets you amped up and excited to experience it. This creates expectations in your head, and when you have high expectations for something and it doesn't meet them, it's easier to be disappointed than satisfied. Another example of a coaster that I got my expectations too high for, and ended up being underwhelmed by, was the highly acclaimed Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point in Ohio. I'm not saying by any means that the ride was bad, it just goes back to the idea of setting the bar too high. The final point I'm going to make about El Toro and why I'm not its #1 fan, and this is a really picky one and probably something you haven't heard voiced before, but this is the cable lift. Look, I know this is a pretty ridiculous reason to complain about, but for me, Toro is a big, intimidating coaster, and at least from my past experiences, part of the fun on a coaster like this is slowly ascending the lift while hearing that extremely suspenseful click of the chain dog. Being a first-time rider, I didn't have enough time to get the suspense or excitement built up inside me, provided by other coasters. I felt shorted out in a way, like I didn't have enough time to process what was going on. But again, I realize this is a pretty petty reason to dislike a coaster, so I'm not really going to validate this as something that ruined my experience, but it did affect my overall opinion. So now that you know all these playing factors, I'll leave you with this. When critiquing coasters like El Toro, I'm not going into it looking for the flaws. If anything, I'm looking for the positives, because I think every coaster deserves a chance. My analysis today doesn't necessarily mean El Toro was a bad ride, because it does have many redeeming qualities. The first drop is great, and the twister section is super punchy and fun. But to me, El Toro just isn't my kind of ride. Again, this has nothing to do with Six Flags or Intamin, and I recognize the efforts that took place from both of them to build this modern marvel. I just have a fairly unique opinion, and I thought it'd be worth voicing to you guys. I know El Toro is pretty high on a lot of your lists though, and maybe even some of your guys' number one. So I challenge those of you to feel this way, to defend it in the comments. I give you my word that I'll respond quickly to each and every one of you, so long as you keep it somewhat professional. I'd also encourage those of you who agree with me to drop a like on this video. Also, a quick shout out and content credit moment to Theme Park Update, who inspired this review with his Why I Hate Texas Stingray video, which I'll link in the description. Again, my name is Josiah, and this has been Why I Hate El Toro, even though I don't really hate it. I just wouldn't wait more than 20 minutes for it. Go ahead and drop your all too precious subscription if you please, and I'll be ready for any backlash you guys throw at me. I wish you all a good rest of the day, and I'll be here with another video on Wednesday. Don't forget to keep up to date with us on Instagram either for those daily posts. See ya!